Hello and welcome to a special edition of Video Games to the Max. As we are doing it, this is our final episode talking. Well, not really the last time we were talking about a game that came out in 2021. This is like the one where we decide who is it that makes our top 25 and eventually our game of the year, as we have been doing for the last ever. I don't even know how many years it is now. At least like five. That's crazy. We've been doing this for five 5 years now. So either way, here with us again, Mr. Randy Isbelle,
Hello, hello.
and of course Mark Morrison. How are you doing
Howdy.
today?
I'm all right.
And of course I'm your host Sean Garmer here with me. These guys, we're gonna do this. So we're gonna talk about our top 10 games, our personal top 10s, as well throughout this. So that we're gonna do our 10 through 6, kind of just list them, not really talk that much, and then our 5 through 1, we can kind of be a little bit more verbose about them, and then that'll lead into us actually having the top 25 discussion. But for that, this is also kind of a look back on 2021 year. So, Randy, when you look back at 2021, like what's the thing that stands out to you? What is your
Um,
highlight or
Honestly, for me, when I look back at the year of 2021 as far as video games goes, I think it's going to be a year that gets a completely bad rap because everyone's like, oh, it's not as good as last year. It's not as good as 2018. Well, we don't have these standout games, like the top of the top kind of games that we've had in other years, but I think our lists are going to show that there was a shit ton of very good games, and it
right?
made even our personal list, I think, extremely difficult to do. Not only to have the time to play through all the games that we wanted to play, but even the ones that we did play, trying to be able to just cut it down to 10 or figure out what's going to be the top of our list is completely
Mm-hmm.
impossible. I think we talked about it off air. There's only 30 possible games that we could have had different on our lists, and we had 22. So it just
Yeah.
shows you how much variety there is, and no matter what kind of gamer you are or what you're into, there was shit that you were into and was really good this year. And
Yeah.
in the end, was there fantastic AAA titles? Not as much as some, but there was a lot of really, really good gaming out there this year.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a big thing from this year. When you think back at 2021, Mark, what is something that stands out to you?
Yeah, just like there's no one game that everyone kind of rallies around, except for maybe one or two of the games in our list. But a lot of good games, but not like nothing like a breakout game. But that's fine. It leads to diversity, so that's cool.
Yeah, I think this was certainly a year where the indies take over more than say the big games. We had so many AAA titles that got delayed into 2022 that when you look back and you go, maybe not on our actual list does it wind up being like, let's say 20, we're not talking about 20 indie games making the list or whatever, but there was a lot, and there's a lot that I could have switched out for other ones, and there's so many others that I just didn't have enough time to play, or some that I played earlier in the year and I didn't go back to, where I felt like I didn't give that enough time to be able to put that on there, but I liked it. And I think this is where I also think that Game Pass was a big thing this year. I think more than any of the other years, they really nailed that whole day one thing, and also just the plethora of these small games or double A games that were put on the console. When we go through and talk about our lists of the, let's say we knocked off about 7 of them to get to the 25 off air. Several of those are currently on Game Pass or were on Game Pass at some point. And many of them that we have on the list right now are on there as well. So it's incredible to me, I think, how much that service has really improved this year. And then, that's why we talked about that conversation of supposedly, we don't really know if it's true or not, but according to reports, that could end up being wrong. PlayStation is also doing their own version of whatever that is going to be for them. So could we ultimately have two companies doing a similar service, and then that means more games for us to talk about next year, right? Of stuff we played. So if you think it got crazy this year, wait till everything next year. But what do you think is like it can be at one game, it can be a moment from this year, it can be a news story. Like, what is your one thing that you feel like is the defining thing from this year? Or it can be a personal thing, or it can be like
I guess for me, it's Take-Two. I mean, just playing that game with my significant other and having as much fun as we had, I think is going to be the gaming moment that I remember going through. I played a lot of really, really good games, but I don't know if I played one that made me laugh as much, or especially with somebody. Me and my son play games together, and we go through older stuff, so it doesn't really fit as well. But going through with Haley and playing It Takes Two and have it throw 90 different kinds of game types at us throughout the time, and having her she's more into the Fallout stuff, so get completely hooked in it, and even when we got to parts that she wasn't a big fan of, 10 minutes later it was something completely different. So I think that's going to be the game that will leave a lasting impression on me for sure.
Mark, anything?
I'd say finally getting into a Tales game, because I've banged my head against that franchise for almost a decade, and they all bounced off me. So I say I finally get into Tales of Arise.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was a standout title that we will definitely be talking about later on for sure. For me, it was a little bit of a discovery for me of like figuring out, oh, I do like these Zelda-like adventure titles. I just got to like really give them a shot and actually push myself through it. And I really experienced that a lot with Death's Door and Chicory and Eastward and several other titles that came out this year that were in that same vein. I've really, really just took the time to experience them, and man, they wound up being some of my favorite games this year. And also Resident Evil. I'm not a big survival horror game guy, and I'm like, is it because I don't like the horror? Is it because I don't really want to take the time to actually figure out how this works? And sometimes you got to run, sometimes you got to shoot, sometimes you got to go into a different room. Maybe that doesn't necessarily work for where you're going, but I really Resident Evil Village really turned me on to not only enjoying and loving that game, I think also just enjoying wanting to go back and play the series and other perhaps survival horror games in the future. So for me, it's a like going past my normal stuff that I would play and playing different things. So yeah, and my last thing that I think I wanted to talk about before we got to our top 10s. Do you have any like gaming regrets from the year? Like a game that you were like, man, I wanted to play that game, but it just didn't come at the right time, or or I just didn't get to play enough of it, and man, I really wish that I had the time, like another week or so, to put into that game.
Yeah, for me, it's Metroid Dread. I think the last time I was on this show, we talked about it, and I just still have not gotten to it. Another one, probably Psychonauts 2, and actually more of the first Psychonauts now, because I'm getting into the second one so much that I'm kind of sad I never played the original. But I do wish that I had played more of Psychonauts 2 before we were able to record this show. I do feel like it's going to end up in my top 10. And it'll be interesting to see where it ranks, but it's going to be one of those games that once I play more of it after we record, I'm going to go, man, I probably should have had that higher. I'm absolutely loving it.
Yeah. Anything like that for you, Mark?
That Chorus game, that like space game. I mean, we didn't get it, and I don't really want to pay for it, but it'd be up my alley.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a game that looked cool to me too. I was sort of interested in it as well.
I have more Game Boy games to buy than that. Sorry.
That's fine. So yeah, for me, actually, it's a weird thing to say. It's a game that I really, really been anticipating. It came out at the wrong time for me. So you're probably going to not only in my personal list, but it's probably not going to be very high on our top 25 list, and people are going to see it as a crime. Halo Infinite came out. The campaign came out at the wrong time for me. Like I wish it would have came out. I wish Forza would have came out in October, and Halo would have come out in November, because then I would have had the time to actually go through and play Halo a lot more, get to the end of the campaign, and perhaps we're talking about it being like one of my games that I'm fighting for Game of the Year, because all I keep hearing is how the campaign's awesome. But there's just so much in it that it's just like going at the same time where I also feel like I'm having to play catch up so we can have this conversation, right? And have this be more of a like fair thing of, oh, I played a lot more games than just the one to be able to bring to this convo. So I had to kind of split my time between a bunch of different games. And unfortunately, I couldn't just sit there and spend 15, 20 hours on Halo to get that done. So, remember, we're not, unfortunately, it'd be nice. So that's the goal at some point, to perhaps be able to play those games a lot more and not have to, work so much. But right now, you're dividing that time. So it is what it is. But let's get on with it. Let's talk about our top 10s. Randy, what is your 6 through 10 right now?
Sure. My 6 through 10 right now. We'll start at number 10 is Cyber Shadow, just Ninja Gaiden like that came out really early on this year, and it's just that game I keep going back to. It's hard as nails and kicks my ass every time I come back to it, but I absolutely love it. The music's great. Obviously, Yacht Club Games was a big help with it as they kind of came in and helped put in some finishing touches. You can mostly tell with the music there. So that's my 10. My 9, Final Fantasy 7 Remake Intermission, the Yuffie stuff. I think I've said it multiple times this year on this show. I hated Yuffie in the original Final Fantasy 7, and this little bit of DLC made me absolutely love that character. So that's a win there. Another one, I guess, is kind of a regret of mine is Death's Door. I got into it when it first came out, and then other things came out, and school happened, and I kind of just fell off of it. But I loved the time I had with it, so I put it at 8. I have Psychonauts 2 at 7. Again, I feel like it would end up higher if we did this in a couple weeks and I had a chance to finish the game. But absolutely loving the time I'm with it right now. And then number 6, kind of disappointed that it is so low with how excited I was with it. But Ratchet and Clank: A Rift Apart is number 6 for me. Absolutely love the game, but it was not much memorable there.
I was surprised that Randy was had it that low. I thought he'd be arguing with us for making that a game of the year or something. So
it was third until the video game cram of the last month has happened, and it keeps being the one I'm like, all right, I can move this one down.
That happens. That happened to me as well. Mark, what is your 10 here?
My number 10 was East 9 Monstrum Nox. It was pretty cool, I thought. Even if it was like constrained intentionally, at least at the beginning. My number 9 was It Takes Two. We can discuss that later. My number 8 was Shin Megami Tensei 5. That probably would have been higher, but it's just too technically messy on the Switch. To cause me like headaches at certain points because just how like bad the frame rate is in certain spots. My number 7 was Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and my number 6 was Deathloop.
Okay. Deathloop. For some reason, I thought that would be higher for Mark after.
It's good. I didn't finish it, and I kind of lost. I didn't lose momentum, but like now I'd have to like basically like relearn how to play it.
Okay, that's fair enough.
But I mean, I'll probably go back to it eventually.
All right. For me, we got number 10, Eastward. It's a little game that I liked quite a bit. If you go through my stuff I played for the Switch this year, it is my second highest game along with Bravely Default 2, which this edged out because I really love the characters. I love the music. I'm not like the biggest like Earthbound guy, but this obviously Earthbound is a huge thing for this game. But it's like everything that works together. Just the art style, obviously the Zelda-like structure, and just the characters for me and the music like really work. That made it stand out for me in this game. I wanted to give it a little bit of a shout out compared to some of the other games that I could have easily put on here. Psychonauts 2, very much like Randy. It's a game that I was playing at the same time that Mark was reviewing it or / playing it, and he went through and beat it and everything. But I think at the same time I was having to play other stuff, and it just I kept saying, okay, I'm gonna start playing it again. I'm gonna start playing it, and then it got back on the back burner, and I just never got back to it. And until we finally got to the point where we are, now where we're doing that same cram that I just talked about, I was like, okay, I'm gonna play it, and I really, really enjoyed it. I'm just like, God, I wish I had spent more time with this, because I know it would probably be one of my top rated games, because I already know I'm gonna love the story, and I already enjoyed those characters from the first game, and obviously the platforming is really good, and then just having all the collectibles and everything. But it's unfortunate, just couldn't get to spend a lot of time with it. Halo Infinite, I already talked about it. Same thing. It's Halo. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to come back into that world. The grappling hook is freaking awesome, and it changes the way you play Halo and think about Halo now. I don't even care about those damn vehicles. Let me just take Master Chief with my grappling hook, and I'm going to go anywhere in the freaking world like I'm playing Breath of the Wild with Halo, and I'll go anywhere with that grappling hook, and I'm good. So that's a game I know I'm going to play after we get done with all this stuff, and I will probably be done with it before we get to the 2022 probably, and I'm going to be sitting there going, damn, it should have been higher. But that's the way these things work sometimes. Inscription is a game that I can't really describe that much about Inscription. It's just one of those things you got to go experience for yourself. When you look at it, it's a card game. It's a card game like Yu-Gi-Oh or something else. But there's also that random element to it, very much like that Hand of Fate game that Mark and I played and kind of liked.
It's like Hand of Fate without the busted combat.
Right. And then there's also some like adventure stuff into it as well. When you get up out of the table, there's some other things there as well. I just don't want to spoil it. So I'm going to leave that vague. I'm really hoping this comes to like Switch at least, if not some of the other consoles, because I really think a bigger audience really appreciate this game. I think being on PC, though, it's not cumbersome. It's something really easy. You're just clicking through stuff or whatever. But I think having that console audience may help it a lot more. And Resident Evil Village, I absolutely really enjoyed this game. There's just other games that I wound up liking a lot more for various reasons. But Resident Evil Village is a standout game that's I'm sure Randy will be talking about more. And if you want to hear more about what Randy thinks, he has a whole chapter still that you can hear him and Jens talk about on that. Y'all can go look in that W2 Network archives that if you subscribe, you can go find it. So that's like 6 to 10. So Randy, you're 5 through 1 that if you want to discuss some more, you certainly can.
Sure. Fitting number 5 is Forza Horizon 5, and it's actually the first Forza Horizon game I ever played. And it's kind of like Psychonauts. What the hell was I been doing? I absolutely loving it. It's another one of those games that is the perfect. I got 30 minutes. Go do a couple races and think around. And the world is massive, and it has more variety to it than I really thought was possible in a racing / driving, whatever you want to call this game. Music's absolutely fantastic. Sounds great. I think it was a good game. Game Awards winner for that category. Just a lot of fun. It's just get in there, goof around for a little bit, figure out what kind of collectibles you want to go after, and it's one of those. There's 900 spots on the map to go check out for different races and different jumps, and it's just fun. It's just a really fun game. Number 4, Kenna Bridge of Spirits. Absolutely loved that game. That the world is beautiful and gorgeous and fantastic. It is harder than I was ever expecting from that game, but I absolutely loved it. That was my number 4 for me. Number 3, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. I think Mark laughed at me last year when I said it was one of my most anticipated games, but you know what? It turned out okay.
He laughed at all of us.
It turned out again.
I was correct.
We all were talking about Avengers and how bad Avengers got, but Guardians was fantastic. And I get it. Mark didn't like the banter, and I do have to agree with Mark. By the end of that game, I got tired of the banter because, man, does that start looping extremely horribly, where you're hearing the same 3 lines over and over.
Especially in the battles, yeah.
Because the battles are extremely long near the end, and the gauntlets you're going through are tough, and they definitely did not code in enough conversation pieces. So I get it. By the end of the game, I was the same way as Mark. It's like, all right, I get it. I understand that we're going through this issue, and Drax is going off about his normal stuff. It's like, all right, we get it. It's fine. All right, my number 2.
Well, I mean, like, I think also the story, I think, is well worth it.
The story is very, very, very good.
And I thought the writing is good for all those characters. I know Mark doesn't like the voice acting, but it's just like there's just a lot to love about this game. The music is fantastic as well, obviously. If there's anything that they had to get right from, if you're gonna ape the movies, that was the one part that you had to do. The huddle thing is stupid, but
while the huddle thing is stupid, I absolutely loved it to figure out what song was going to be completely out of place.
Yeah,
we're gonna have this epic battle, and all of a sudden, I'm getting rickrolled.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point, right?
I was having fun with that. So no, it's a blast. It was a lot of fun, and it was my surprise of the year. Like, I was excited for it, and I wanted to see how it went, and it was way better than I was ever going to give it credit for. My number 2 is Resident Evil 8. I thought this was going to be my clear number 1 coming into the year, and for about 5-6 of this game, it was absolutely put together beautifully. I thought it meshed together almost every style of Resident Evil and kind of played the hits. You're going through a castle, just like the old Resident Evil games, and then you're going spooky style, which, Resident Evils have never really done the Outlast style of horror, but I thought they did it well enough, and it was a short enough section that it didn't overstay its welcome. And then they got more action based as you went forward, and you got more Resident Evil 4s and 5s and big boss battles like you'd have in 6. And I think it was just kind of a love letter to the entire series and kind of hit the great spots. Ethan is still not my favorite main character that you play as, but he's just kind of the vessel there, and it's more about the world and the characters you interact with, whether it's Heisenberg or Big Booby Vampire Lady. It makes me very curious what they're going to do with 9, because obviously they like to do these in trilogies and then finish things off. And there are things that they kind of set up in the lore dump near the end of the game that has me really interested which direction they're going to go with it. So I'm very excited. I just feel like the ending didn't land as much as I was hoping. I think, Sean, I've heard you kind of talk about the same stuff. The Heisenberg section takes a little bit too long. The final boss is like most Resident Evil games. They just can never nail the final boss to save their lives. But I liked 8 more than 7, and I really, really like 7. So it's up number 2 for me. And then my game of the year, I already mentioned it, was It Takes Two. Just the most fun I've had in a video game in years. Haley and I laughed the entire way through. Was the story hokey? Sure, of course. Was the book annoying? Yeah, sure. But none of those really overstayed their welcome by any means. It was just a driving force to get you from all of the... I don't even know how many different genres you play in that game. There's just so many, and they nail all of them. There's not a single section where I'm like, oh, this just doesn't work in this game. It all works, whether it's first-person shooters, so they had fighting, or a bunch of platforming, lots of puzzles. It's so wonderful, and just a fantastic game to play with your family.
Different as well, right? Like, they don't really repeat themselves.
Unfortunately, I'm much more of a gamer than Haley is, so all of the mini games that we unlocked, I smoked her in every single time. But the fact that there's so many different ones, and that'll be something I play with Chase as we go through our Christmas break, I'm sure, and try to play some of those. It's just absolutely, it's just a heartwarming, fantastic game. And, obviously I've been a big fan of Joseph Fares. I've loved all 3 of his games now. I don't think they have missed yet, and they just keep getting better. And all I want to know is what's coming up next, because they've all been completely different, and they've all nailed. And
except that you have the common thread of co-op. He does like the co-op.
That's true. Well, Brothers was more, you still played by yourself, but you had the 2 characters had to work together for sure. Right. But and it's a lost art. But I know a lot of people were surprised at one game of the year. I was surprised at one, even though it is my game of the year, just because I didn't think it was going to get the recognition. But it's so well deserved and absolutely fantastic. So yeah, Easily my game of the year, though I understand that I will probably get outvoted, and that is okay with me. Because again, this year had so much to it that it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. There was a lot to that. So, Mark?
My number 5 was Metroid Dread. I really liked it, but it does have a lot of issues, especially if you don't really like Metroidvanias or you can get frustrated easily. Plus, it didn't feel like the exploration was important in that game, which is weird because you get upgrades, but they're very, very pointless. At least most of them. My number 4 is Persona 5 Strikers. That's another game where Tales of Arise, which is up later on, but I don't like stupid Dynasty Warriors games. That's one of those, but it's actually good, and you don't just fight the yellow rebellion or yellow turban rebellion or whatever it's called. It had a good story and good gameplay. Number 3 was Returnal for me. I can see why it would annoy people, but I got into it. I beat a lot of that game. I don't think I 100%ed it, but I got far. I saw multiple endings in that thing, and I think it's pretty dependent on your. A lot of people had different loadouts or different favorite weapons, so I think it's highly dependent on what your preference is. Number 2 is Resident Evil Village. I think that's the one game on all of our lists,
I think so.
or at least the big one. I thought it was really good. I didn't play 7, and 6 was terrible. I didn't actually mind Ethan as a character. I thought it was funny that they never showed his face, even the house.
They went to great lengths to make sure you did not see his face at all.
So
when they were able to break the game and you can see Ethan's face, nobody wanted to see his face.
Yeah. So as a character, I didn't empathize. I didn't really care about him as a character. Although I thought it was funny in the game when they cut off his 2 fingers. And he doesn't really bat an eye.
Yeah. Well, you find out later why, so that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, great combat. I liked the different castle parts. How I actually didn't mind Heisenberg's factory. If anything, the one I didn't like was Dimitrescu's castle.
Really? Wow.
Just because her AI was
terrible. That's true. She is no Mr. X.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about her hardly at all.
And to be fair with that too, I mean, yes, her AI is not great, but that castle is not as big as it needed to be.
Yeah.
The reason why Mr. X works in Resident Evil 2 remake is there's a lot of different entry points all around that police station, and with the castle, there's a lot of choke points.
Yeah,
make it really difficult for somebody like a Dimitrescu or a Mr. X to really work the way they should.
Or there's no way to really get around. You can't stun her when she's walking around. Mm-hmm. You just have to hope for the best. And once you get to the guy's shop, she her AI completely breaks and walks the same 20 feet over and over until for 5 minutes, and it's all right, get going here. And my number 1 is Tales of Arise. I just think that game is really good. My game of the year for sure. And even though I got shafted at the Game Awards with the 5-second award ceremony, really long. It's long, but it's not too involved or it's not too heavy. Good revelations, a good story. Characters were, most of them were fine. And really good battle system. I really like that one.
Yeah, so. I mean, it's a fantastic game that I'm also not always the biggest Tales fan, and it got me as well.
I've tried to play Vesperia twice, Zillia, and Berseria. I got pretty far in Berseria, but the battle systems in those earlier games were always weird because you're on a 2D plane, but it's a 3D game, right. And they're asking you to do directional inputs that don't work because you're in a 3D game.
Yeah, true. But they somehow get it to work in this game though, so that's
it's pretty simplified, which is good. You don't need to have 12 different arts attached to the controller, or 12 different combinations. It's that's too much.
I'll agree there. It's a lot, but At least, yeah, like you said, at least they figured it out to make it to where it's not this cumbersome thing that it has been in the past.
Yeah.
But all right, I guess it's my turn now. Number 5 for me is a game that I never, unlike Mark, I had never played any of the Life is Strange games, and I did not know really. I mean, obviously, I have a lot of experience with like Telltale and stuff, but I didn't know that I was gonna like the Life is Strange stuff, and then this comes and blows me away with how good the story Life is Strange has. I think it helps a lot that it's episodic, but it's not. It's all in one game. It's not I have to buy 5 different things and wait 2 months for each one to come out and all that stuff. And I think Alex is also a great character. Just her, and then also the 2 that you have to pick from the romantic, whether it's the guy or the girl. They did a great job with those characters as well. So and like everything when it finally gets revealed, it all works. And just how she overcomes what she has to overcome in that game I just think it's well worth everybody's time to go check out, and a game that I absolutely love this year. I'm gonna have some repeats from the guys here. Marvel's Guardians, we talked about it already. I talked about pretty much everything there when Randy was commenting about what I liked about the game. It's the narrative just really surprised me. It totally deserved the Game of the Year win at the awards. It's for me one of the highlights when you talk about narratives this year, as far as when you have those emotional moments with all those characters, they really do make it feel like they are the Guardians, right? By the time we get to the end, they really do feel like they had this camaraderie with each other, and I really appreciated that because they really could have mailed this in, right? They could have just done, oh, well, it's Guardians, and hey, you got music, that's all you need, right? And there's some basic gameplay. Like they really tried with the story to do their own original thing, and that's something that for going above and beyond for us, like not being so sure about like would this work, right? The single player where you only control Star-Lord, and oh man, everybody wants to be able to control the other Guardians. I thought it really worked really well because you have such command of the characters and how they all work together to actually help you. So they did all that really well. Tales of Arise for me, it's definitely the best JRPG of the year. It's best or RPG period. It's one of the it's a standout game as far as just it nails everything that Mark talked about. I thought the story was really well done until the end where they kind of dropped the ball, but they carry that narrative all throughout, and I thought that was really good on them too, because sometimes these RPG narratives just go off the wall nuts and don't make any sense, and they actually tried to make this sort of sense for the longest period until they dropped it. Where you get to the alien dudes and then like nothing happens with them, and it's like, why? You messed it up there. But other than that, I just really love the gameplay. That's always solid, but they nailed it with those boost movements that you get to do with the characters, and then how you can switch them out really easy and everything. And I love the worlds. It's a beautiful game as well. So they nailed it on that. And my top 2 are both indie games. So Chicory Colorful Tale is one of those things that you can actually not bother with the game itself. You can just go around and paint if you want to, but you can also play co-op, and one person controls Chicory the dog, or well, whatever you want to name your dog, and then the other person controls, like they have another brush. And then it's awesome when you actually get to play the bosses, because you're actually playing together and trying to beat this boss, and you're going through what she's going through in her head and all of the stuff that she goes through throughout the entire game. And like all the themes that it has in this game is absolutely fantastic for anybody that's been going through that, like depression or imposter syndrome or whatever. Like there's so many awesome moments in that game. Not to mention it has Lena Raine's soundtrack from Celeste and various other games that she's done. Absolutely fantastic soundtrack that perhaps maybe is the best one of this year. And then Death's Door for me just absolutely knocked me on my butt of like, this is a game that's just awesome from start to finish, has fantastic gameplay, upgrades. It has no map, but you can easily find out where you're going. I love the characters. They all have some kind of meaning, like shout out to Pothead. Literally, it's a guy with a pot in his head, not that he, smokes pot, but that,
That's the sequel.
Just exactly. So, I mean, it just, by the time you get to the end, like, you really understand all that, and it's so well done, and to be what it is, and it comes out and just blows you away. And this is one of the games that wasn't on Game Pass, right? And it's well worth its $20. In fact, both those games, for being $20, are absolute steals that you should go get on Switch or PlayStation, whichever one you want to go buy it on, or you can go get the store on Xbox as well. But yeah, I absolutely love that game, and we'll be talking about it again here when we do our 25. But so that's our top 10s. Those are the ones set in stone here. So taking those games plus adding some more that we added off air, we have our list of 25 that we are now going to start going around and figuring out which one goes where. We kind of sort of know what we're doing as far as where they're going to go. It's more about, like, I guess, the order, right? And if we have any like total disagreements here. But I guess we already gave out our 22. The other three that we haven't mentioned yet: Unpacking, which the Artful Escape, and which is the one for you, Mark?
Near Replicant.
Near Replicant. Okay. So let's 25 through 21. Are those?
Well, I do have to ask real quick, because I just realized when I went back to my sheet, I did take the Mass Effect thing off when I was doing the list. Do we want it on there or no?
No.
Okay.
It's still a remaster of a.
Okay. All right, that's what I had figured, but I figured I'd double check before we got going. All right.
Okay. So, yeah, 25 through 21. Do we have those three? That's where they go? Or are we going to argue for any of them moving from that 5? And then we're figuring out 2 more to go there? Or what are we doing?
Well, I definitely know Cyber Shadow can go down there. I mean, it barely made my top 10. Neither of you. I know Mark hasn't played it. I don't think.
I played like a
I haven't
little
heard
bit
of it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have no problem with it being even at 25. I won't fight with it. It just ended up on my top 10. It's a perfect game for me, but I know it did not make a lot of waves. So I have no problem with it going 25.
Okay, so you're cool with Cyber Shadow being 25. Randy already talked about it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Game Pass game. You can go play it on Game Pass right now. Or you can go and help Yakuza Games and those devs by purchasing it as well. So we have Final Fantasy 7 Remake Intermission, which I loved as much as you did, Randy. I thought Yuffie was absolutely an awesome character that they somehow improved from the first game. And I'm like you. I wasn't. Yuffie definitely feels like that bit character, and that, where you find her and everything. I never really, whenever I play Final Fantasy 7 until I played this, I mean, I loved it from Kingdom Hearts, but it's still not a character that I sat there and spent time really like bothering with when I would play 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now when you play this, it's like, now I want to experience what she would be like when she's with the whole cast, so are we talking about in that range, or do you think it should move out of the range?
I'm looking at games that we added on there. Unpacking. I know you and I both played. I thought it was a cute little puzzle game. It was cool to tell the story of this person throughout their life without ever really saying a word. But I think it's with Cyber Shadow near at the bottom. Same with Artful Escape. I thought it was cute. But it never really hooked me like it has other people. So I'd put those two below Final Fantasy.
I thought Artful Escape was a fantastic game from just the fact of, like, the music's good. Again, the themes are good here.
Mm-hmm.
It does a little bit more than just doing the narrative thing, right? Like, you do get to do some of the music stuff, and
the gameplay is interesting enough, and it keeps you engaged. But it just didn't hook me like it has some others that I know a lot of people were saying it might be near their game of the year, and it didn't hook me as much. So I'd say those two below Final Fantasy for sure. I have never played Eastward. I've never heard of it. I'm in Mark's camp as far as Cyber Shadow goes there, so I don't know where you want to put that one, but
Yeah.
there's a few that we could definitely fill out this bottom part pretty easy.
Mark, where are you? I mean, you're the only one that can really represent with Nier, so
I could see it like 21. Like maybe 20. Up there. I mean, there are games in like both your kind of honorary mentions lists that I probably have below it just because I never heard of them or like actively. I mean, I might have heard of like Little Nightmares too, but I know nothing about it. So
yeah, I mean, so we removed some games automatically already, unless we're going to talk about removing games that were in our top 10s to put other things on. But if we're going to do that, we probably should do that like quickly.
No, I don't think so. I think we already did that pretty good.
Yeah. So like, I don't want to go down that road because we'll be here longer. All right. So I really loved Eastward. I already kind of talked about why I did. I also really love Final Fantasy. So I will make the cut of putting Eastward at 24. I really liked unpacking a little bit more. I also had the soft spot of like that's Anaya's first great game that she grabbed by herself and started playing. And for me, like it meant a lot that it was a game that I was playing. She saw me play it and been like, oh, I wanted to play that too, and I kind of explained the story to her and she's like, oh man, that's cool. Now I kind of get it, and like that's what's great about that game. It's a game that you don't really you kind of just think it's a game about, oh, it is a game about just unpacking stuff. And then you see that there's telling a story. So, and I thought it was very well done for what it is. So I'm good with unpacking at 23. We'll put Eastward at 24, Artful Escape 25. I think Final Fantasy, I haven't played Nier, so although they did a great job with remaking the first Nier and putting it, modernizing it, they made it more like Nier Automata.
I mean, how long is that Yuffie content?
Well, it's like 2 hours, 3 hours.
That'd kind of be my knock against it, honestly. Like,
well, but just because the game's 3 hours doesn't mean that it can't be considered a full game. So fine. We can put intermission at 22. And we can put Nier at 21 then.
I can't remember how long this thing was.
I think it was, I know I spent like maybe 4 hours. If you do everything else, I think you can actually, like if you play everybody in For Condor, if you do all the optional bosses and everything else, I think it's longer. But if just to go through like the main stuff, it's not very long. So, okay. So now we're up to the 20 to 19-ish range. Right, so, you have Shin Megami Tensei 5 as your thought here.
Yeah, like 20 would be fine. Like,
okay,
yeah.
We have that East game too.
No, and the East game. Oh, I forgot about the East game.
I might have it a little higher personally, but like 16 or 17. But if I have it at 19, I guess it'd be fine.
So we put Nier just above Final Fantasy 7. Is that what we did?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you forgot Cyber Shadow was 25. So everything that you had said.
Oh, Cyber Shadow. Okay.
Just bump everything up one. That's totally fine. So Nier at 20 is fine.
Okay. And then, okay, so we have what? East. We have Shin Megami Tensei 5. What else do we have in this range here? Like, yeah, I think everything else was kind of like we had thought it's in this like 11 to 20 ranges. It starts getting tough, right? Like you're
for sure.
We can
looking at games that just one of us had kind of in the middle of our list. Or you're looking at kind of Inscription.
Yeah.
You're looking at, I guess two of us you have Death Sword, obviously is number one, so that's not there.
Yeah, I mean,
It's such a mess. It's a total mess in here.
So I mean,
I would say like Boyfriend Dungeon that was in your list.
No, that wasn't in my top 10. We're only looking at like top 10 stuff basically.
Yeah, everything left is only that was in our top 10 lists. We've already gotten rid of the 3 extras that we had.
Okay, so we're looking at like Persona 5, Shin Megami Tensei, East 9, maybe the Psychonauts 2 in this range. Life is Strange.
Do you want to have the Psychonauts 2 conversation?
I really liked Psychonauts 2 a lot from what I've played, but I have not played a lot. You have beaten it, so
this is more towards Randy. Like you said, you didn't play the first one, right?
Correct.
That's okay. That's why I don't like this one as much, because it is a worse one than the first one.
So what is different about this one? That's worse?
So the levitation ball in the first game doesn't suck. Like it doesn't expire. Or it expires. I think it might, like if you hold up onto it like a long time. But you have to really hold on to it. Like you just fall in like 2 seconds in this game. Combat is a lot harder and not in a good way. Like your melee is like really reduced, and like your ranged abilities, like except for the Psy Blast, aren't good. The levels are worse. Like
I like the level design a lot.
The only the only good level I thought in the Psychonauts 2, I had to like some levels were okay, like the intro level or the casino. The Psy King level is extremely good. That's when you're helping Jack Black get his senses back.
Okay.
But most other levels in that game are just not as memorable. Like Bob's Bottles, I really hated. Because that's a level all underwater, or all in the water, and you die in the water.
Yeah, he has a fear of water, so
and like you're traveling on these bottles, like kind of like they're moving platforms, but like the figments fly around you, and you have to like be in the right spot to get them, and it's like this is not fun.
Well, I mean that happens a lot in the other ones as well. You have to kind of like
but you're not beholden to a moving platform that will if you jump off it you instantly die. Like the levels in the first game, like there are specific levels in the first game that are extremely memorable. Like the obvious one is Milkman Conspiracy, which like they give you that power in this game, that like third person or like astral projection. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, astral projection.
But it's terrible. Like you don't do anything with it.
Yeah, there are definitely some powers that feel kind of useless to like even upgrade at all.
Like they give you give you powers, but I mean they give you most of the powers from the first game, except for like the energy, like the invisibility and energy shield. Right. But even that, it's almost like there's too many, and you're constantly switching between powers. You only have 4 like equipable buttons. And I just
thank you for noticing our facial hair here. I appreciate that.
Well, I just think the levels in the first game are just dramatically better. So once you play that, you'll understand why.
I mean, but so there's nothing from the second game that you think is better than the first game?
Not really. I mean, like the last level is not as frustrating, but I didn't really have a problem with that in the first game, the Meat Circus.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so long since I played that first game. I really couldn't. I'd have to play it again because I don't remember jack of which. I remember it gets difficult at times. Obviously, it's different. It's Xbox One or Xbox original game, so different deal than right now. But so you're saying it should be more on the lower end of the 20 then?
I mean, it could be like 15.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I also have the same basic argument with Ratchet and Clank.
Randy, I mean, you're you reviewed Ratchet and Clank. You really were a champion of Ratchet and Clank, you said, for a while. And so where would you put it here?
It's so hard because it's a lot of these games that are on this list I haven't played. So this is where this top 25 always becomes difficult because I would put it above Psychonauts 2. I definitely enjoyed Ratchet and Clank More than that, I'm definitely not going to try to battle Ratchet and Clank into the top 10 because I do think there were 10 better games this year, whether they were my cup of tea or not. To me, did Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart do anything new? No, absolutely not. But they have done such a great job with this formula that I don't think they did anything wrong with it. There was a couple worlds in there that I do wish were a little bit bigger to go along with their whole Rift Apart
That was my
idea.
yeah.
And I do get that argument that some of the worlds just that it didn't really work with the whole concept of the whole rifts. But there were several levels that were possibly my level of the year, and they were absolutely fantastic. It was just kind of a mixed bag in that, but I do understand that. Yeah, if you've played any of the last couple Ratchets, have you played this one? Yeah, just this was a much prettier version of those for sure. But if it's not broke, don't fix it, and just keep giving me more of it. And I absolutely loved it, but again, I'm not going to like go off on it being game of the year by any means.
I mean, I would say the biggest problem I had with this Ratchet, well, two, I just didn't like Rivet as a character, and they just didn't like. She could have worked, but they didn't introduce her like well. Like the first thing she does is like steal Clank, and it's like I'm supposed to like empathize with this character now, like. And the second thing is you kind of talked about it, but yeah, like the whole Rift system sucks, or they did like nothing with it. You go like one.
Yeah, they really make it a big deal, and then it's not.
Yeah,
really
it's like that first
deal,
intro.
right?
The first intro level, it's like okay, you're going between like 4 different dimensions. Like when you're in like a tram, and when you're flying like on a dragon or whatever. And it's like, where is this in the game? Because you're in this other shitty dimension, and that's it. Like, it should have been like they should have had at least like 2 or 3, and like have one of them like be Ratchet as a bad guy, and then like another third one where something else is different. Like Cork is like the actual like big hero or something. But like you're just stuck in this one dimension, and you have these like really piddly, like one-off dimension rooms or like puzzle rooms that are just boring. I mean, or just completely flat, and it's like, no. And I actually thought the combat in the first game was better, or the 2017 or 16 one or whatever.
I thought they were the exact same because they're the exact same.
I mean, they mostly are, but like you have different weapons in the first game, and some of the weapons I just never used. Like I never even wanted to use them in this one.
Yeah, I mean that's any Ratchet and Clank game. You're gonna get your 4 or 5 that you absolutely love, and then you're just gonna roll with it.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. I mean, so are we saying like maybe like ahead of Psychonauts, but not in the top 10 either, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're good with what East being at 19 then.
Yeah, it's fine.
I really liked East. It was the first game that I played that was technically from this year, even though technically that game came out in like December 2019 in Japan, but that's when it came out here. The action gameplay is great. Obviously, that's what that series is known for. But I think what really stands out about that game is the story is absolutely very well done, and all the characters are actually.
Yeah, I did the characters. Yeah. I did the music.
The music's always great.
And I thought it was a very even experience. If there were no like difficulty spikes or anything,
and there's a lot to explore as well. I mean, from where you're going. So, all right. So we got to figure out from here.
Out of year 2, which one do you want a championship more, Inscription or Shin Megami Tensei 5?
Well, that's not me. Shin Megami Tensei is Mark. I'm Inscription.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Who's
going
to battle more for their game?
Like Inscription to me, I think needs to be closer to the top of the. If it's going to go anywhere in this section, 11, right at 11, because that game.
Okay, so name.
It is nothing. It's like nothing else you're going to play this year.
Name 7 games right now to put below it. If you wanted it at 11, we need.
East 9, Shin Megami Tensei, Persona 5 Strikers, Ratchet and Clank, Psychonauts 2, Halo, and what am I missing here? Help me with
That's what I'm asking. I haven't played this game.
I mean, I gave you 6. Like, Life is Strange. Yeah. So there's 7. There you go.
Okay. Mark, what's your argument for Shin Megami Tensei 5?
It's a hard Persona game. That's pretty much it. No,
don't say that, Mark.
No.
Persona people will come and attack us on this show. If you say
it does a lot of really interesting things with the main character, like that you can acquire skills from all your little personas. The story is nonsensical with that game, but that's what you kind of expect with the Shin Megami Tensei game. It does change with the formula because it's really open world, which is really interesting for that type of like franchise. Like you can kind of just run around and do whatever you want. But I would say it'd be like 15 or 14. But like I said, it'd be higher on my list if it just ran better. Like once you get out of, it's like Breath of the Wild. Like once you get out of a certain range in Breath of the Wild, like the game really turns to ass. This does that way worse because it's not Nintendo making it. So like you can see the little guys you have to pick up very easily because they look incredibly awkward with their 2 frames of animation dancing around. It's like, okay, that's very easy. That's easy to spy now because it doesn't look natural at all in this game. And yeah, like it's just I think it's really good, but it'll be on my list next year when the PS4 or PS5 version hits.
If you're watching on video, I'm actually showing a scripture right now because I didn't have that ready when I was talking. But yeah, I can't speak for what Mark's saying, but
I mean, I guess I would have Inscription higher just because it's more interesting. Or like Inscription is basically the card game of Hand of Fate mixed with like The Room.
Yeah, you can also give it like Slay the Spire kind of vibe as well because there's a little bit of randomness to where you're playing in the card game. But I love that. I love the fact that there's so much about it that you could like it for this one thing. You can not be a card game player and still play that game because you can go deep into the card game part if you want, but there's actually like you don't have to either. You can just do an auto deck builder and you can sort of win that way and just go on and love the other parts of that game. So, yeah. This is where like it breaks my heart. I think any other year had I actually gotten to play, that more of Halo, I would have been higher. But
I mean, I'd have Halo like 12 personally.
You guys are just throwing out random numbers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are games on our like the list that I would have lower, that like Ratchet and Clank or Guardians of the Galaxy that I just know I wouldn't wait.
Guardians to me is a top 10 game.
And I have no opinion.
Unless Randy is like really okay with that, because I feel like Guardians.
No, I think it should be higher.
Or I just have no opinion on like Chicory or Death's Door. So,
well, okay. So I think we're sort of starting to formulate this thing. We said Psychonauts at like 15, right? So E's at 19. We got to start building that sort of thing here of. So are you cool with Shin Megami Tensei like in the back of that?
Yeah.
15. Okay, so Shin Megami Tensei at 18 then?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so Persona 5 Strikers, what's your case for
it's finally a good one of those, which has never existed before.
That I mean, that is short and sweet version of it. It is a very good one of it's a great one of those. Of all the other of those, it adds its own personality more than the other ones of those. I would say it has its own personality more than the Zelda one.
Well, it has a personality, and it actually has like levels. Like it's not just a
Yeah.
big field where you're just cutting up hundreds of enemies at a time.
Yeah, exactly. It is not.
Like it has crafted levels that could very much could work in the RPG version of that game.
Yeah, I will give it that there are little small sections where you do fight a large pool of characters, but it's not as much as any of those other games.
Those are more like the intro parts of the game, like that. Like
Yeah.
the first level is like, yeah, you're in like a huge city, like
Right.
square, but like that's kind of about it for that level. Like every
yeah,
the
and
second
you
go
had
down
the
a street-
palaces, and you had the boss battles, and
yeah,
you had
like
the
the-
music, and
bosses are interesting. Like the way that each character can like plays differently. The fact that you still have your persona system, like it's reduced, but there's still at least 80 of them in there, I think, and they all have different abilities or different attacks. So, and the story I
Yeah.
thought was interesting. Or yeah,
I mean that's a plus for that game as well. Like not only do you get the reunion of those characters, but you like they do that well.
yeah.
So
I mean that would be in between 11 and 20. That would be very high in that list for me.
okay.
I would have it above Psycho and Ratchet and Clank personally, but if you guys want to argue against it or like not for that, that'd be fine, I guess.
I would be okay with it being above the Psychonauts. Would you be okay with it being above Ratchet
I haven't
and
played
Clank?
it, so that's that's
Randy?
fine with me too.
Okay, that's fine with you too. Okay, so all right, for me, I would say Inscription, Halo, Persona 5 Strikers. I think we should. Why don't we just move Psychonauts down
To 17, that's
at
fine.
this point?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's where we're at. Okay, 17. Okay, so my case for Life is Strange is that game is number one. They took the advantage of putting it all in one and not making you have to do that episodically, but every single episode does feel different, and it adds on to the story that they're telling. There's even a special. I just don't want to spoil it for people that haven't played the game, so I can't really like say, okay, well, there's a whole section where they actually really do jump on that, and it turns into a different game for that entire section.
I mean, the first
Like-
Life is Strange had that also.
Yeah, I just really think that Alex as a character and the emotions thing, I think, is done better than perhaps the other ones, as far as what she does there, and then how they tell that story and how it combines in the end. I'm really just arguing for one spot at this point. So
From the sounds of it, our next 5, as far as the list goes, it will be Ratchet and Clank, Halo, Inscription, Persona 5 Strikers, and Life is Strange. I don't think any of us disagree with that. It's just what order we want to put it in. And honestly, with me, I don't care.
Okay.
Because I've only played 2 of them.
Okay.
And only one of them have I finished, because I'm with you with Halo Infinite. I just haven't played as much as I want. But I think all 5 of those feel like middle of our range kind of a list. I think all of us that have put it on the list have went, oh yeah, this is good, but there's been a but for it. So whatever way, I think those are our next 5 though.
Okay, so how about Inscription, Halo, Life is Strange, Persona, and Ratchet and Clank?
Are you going top to bottom or bottom to top?
Top 11 to 15. 11 to 15.
Well, so 12 to 16.
Well, I had Inscription at 11, so we're missing one game still? I thought we had this figured out. So
no, you just keep randomly saying a number and then thinking you got to get it to that exact number.
Well, because I'm trying to stop at 10, so we can start at the next block, and then.
So we just need another game in there.
One.
That's one above Inscription. That's fine.
Okay.
So you said, what was your list again? Inscription, Halo.
Okay, I'm putting it here. Psychonauts. So we have Psychonauts 2. What?
At 17.
Yeah. Okay, I had Inscription, Halo, Life is Strange, Persona, and Ratchet and Clank. So there was one in the middle there that we're missing.
There's not one in the middle. It just
there's one game that we're missing somewhere. We got to put somewhere. And I swear I mentioned one, and I can't. Oh, Shin Megami Tensei. That was the one.
Which we have at 18.
Okay, so
No,
that's
you
what
have
it
to
was.
write that. Yeah.
I messed it up. Okay. I thought somebody was going to be writing while I'm talking. So I'm writing and I'm talking at the same time. Okay, so now we got this figured out. So we're up to 11. Now 10 to 5. Like, where are we at with that?
No, we still need 11.
We still need 11.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, our 11 games left. Here, I'll just go through them. Our 11 games left are Chicory,
go ahead.
Death's Door, Deathloop, Forza Horizon 5, It Takes Two, Kenna Bridge of Spirits, Guardians of the Galaxy, Metroid Dread, Resident Evil Village, Returnal, and Tales of Arise. Those are our top 11.
Okay, that's where we're at. Top 11. Okay. All right. For me, Death Store has to be in the top 5. Well, what is your game that has to be in the top 5 for you?
It Takes Two.
It Takes Two. Okay.
I'd say Tails, but
Tails has
I'd be willing to have that be like 5.
Okay.
And I think all of us liked Resident Evil Village enough that I think that's in our top 5 as well. So that's 4. That's
fair enough.
Is that our top 4 then?
That'll be the weird one. Let's just say that for right now.
Is that our top 4 in no particular order at the moment?
Yeah, then right. If you're okay. Oh, man, the number didn't want to give the thing. All right, so at least we have that's our unordered top 4. I mean, I would say Forza Horizon 5, maybe in that top 5 as well. I mean, yeah, it's a racing game, but it's a really freaking great racing game. And they nailed everything from 4 and then upped it more.
Yeah, I have no problem.
And then also looks awesome as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I don't know what Mark thinks, but I have no problem with that being
I haven't played
the bottom
it, but
of
I
our
like
5.
the last one, and I won't object to that. Let's say that.
Okay.
I like the fourth one quite a bit too.
All right, so we've been able to split this in half, so that's good.
Yeah. So now it's
out of the other 6 is Chicory, Deathloop, Kenna, Guardians, Metroid, and Returnal. Do we want to split that in half again? Which ones are top? Which ones are bottom? How do we want to?
I think Returnal. You know what? Actually, switch Returnal and Forza Horizon because I think Returnal deserves a spot in the top 5 for being original. It's not totally original; it's still a roguelike, but it's like for what it does, and then also for what Housemarque did, considering where they come from, right, to what they were able to do with this game. And
we could have like Forza be 6.
Yeah,
Forza will be right that middle point between our top 5 and our other 5. I'm fine with
that. So there's our other 5. We have what? Deathloop, Kenna, Chicory,
Guardians, and Metroid.
Okay.
And I think honestly I know Sean might disagree, but I think our bottom 2 out of those 5 is Kenna and Chicory.
Yeah. No, yeah. If you're high on Chicory, that's one thing, but Kenna just always looked a little too slight for me as a game.
It's not a slight game, I would say.
Kenna's pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty.
But to be fair, it's the same loop between the game or between the sections for sure. So I really liked Kenna, but I have no problem.
I really like Kenna too a lot.
Between the bottom of these 5 games, I have no problem with Kenna. Kenna at 11, Chicory at 10.
What do you have? Deathloop,
Guardians, and Metroid as the 3 above it.
Yeah,
that's correct.
That's fine. That's fine.
I think that's. Listen, Deathloop didn't make my top 10, and it's out of the 3 games that I'm playing right now. It's the one I've played the most of between it, Halo Infinite, and Psychonauts 2. It is 100% not a me kind of game, but I can respect the holy hell out of it for what it is trying to accomplish and what it keeps doing. And So I have no problem with it going wherever it needs to go. I just know that I am probably going to be about done with it myself, but it's just because it's not my kind of game.
It finally clicked for me, and I think that's what it has to happen with that game. Like, I think it has to click for you. Like, you have to get to that certain point where you go, oh, that's it. Like, okay. I mean, I killed this one, one of the 8 dudes, and I killed Juliana or something, and it's like, oh, okay, this is it. Like, if you never get to that point, I think that game just doesn't work for you. So,
and I've definitely had a couple moments like that, killing Juliana the first time and getting one of the purple weapons. I did some weird puzzle, and then all of a sudden I was a badass for an hour.
Yeah.
And then I goofed up and I died, and they were gone, and it made me really sad.
Here's the fun thing: the 2 fun things. One, you can unlock a resource later on that lets you carry over weapons.
Yeah, I've unlocked that now, but
yeah,
I can't remember what part of the day it was when I got to the puzzle to get those guns, and I just haven't pushed through enough to go back and find them yet.
But also there are higher tier. There's actually orange weapons, which are higher tier, which are really good.
Yeah, I mean, I just really like they. I mean, obviously this is a trait of Dishonored. Obviously, where this Arcane comes from, but I really, really like that you have those options of deciding, oh, I can be stealthy, or I can just go in there and blaze if I want to, and there's a path for each one of those. It's not just, oh, well, I have to decide. It's, you can actually find a different way to go meet those Returnalists and kill them, or you can go in and just be like, fuck it, bam, whatever. But that's a really cool thing. And the way the graphics look, and when you go into some of these different places that they're in, it's really good as well. Like the art design, the just like direction of this is awesome as well.
So Mark, these are 2 that are on your list. Do you put Deathloop above or below Metroid Dread?
I guess I would put it below it, personally, just because I finished Metroid Dread, and there are frustrating parts to it, but it did still evoke that Metroid kind of gameplay, or that feeling of exploration, and it did have some really inventive boss fights, even if the Emmy fights were not great, but yeah.
Are there any moments of Deathloop where you go, I mean, that wasn't great?
Not really, but like I said, I didn't finish Deathloop.
See, but even though you didn't finish it, though, like the fact that you said that you haven't really gotten to a part of Deathloop where it's not great. And
well, I mean, like you said, the first 4 or 5 hours of that game, or even 3 to 4, are not good. So the fact that Randy's bouncing off of it, that, I mean, I almost had that experience as well.
Okay.
So I guess I'd rather have a semi-mediocre game than a good game, but that is good in the long run, but it has a very high barrier of entry to get into.
Is this where I make fun of Persona 5?
The Strikers, or
no,
any of the
just the long intro to Persona 5 that I couldn't get.
Oh yeah, it does. It takes this little sweet time to get there. That's true.
So Deathloop at 9. Are we
okay? Deathloop at 9 then.
Not against that, and then, so it's between Guardians and Metroid then.
Okay,
that's not a contest.
Yep, that's true. Guardians over Metroid.
Nope.
Yeah, Guardians over Metroid.
Just as of now, I guarantee you, if we do this, we talk about this in a month, I'm going to come back on and apologize to Mark once I finally play Metroid. But
okay,
right,
what I would say is that Metroid that's a extremely well done 2D Metroid, 3D Metroid.
Yeah,
but I didn't experience with Guardians I didn't experience any of that. Like, oh, there's that section with the Emmys that I don't like, or some of the bosses are not always. I mean, isn't the exploration in that game also not always the best either? Of trying to find where you're supposed to go, or
in Metroid.
Yeah.
I mean, some people have an issue. I kind of didn't, or it felt pretty easy to me as far as like where to go or like what to do next. Especially all the upgrades you get, like the story upgrades you get. It's like, oh, now I can jump underwater correctly. Let's go back to all these other areas that I couldn't do that before, and let's start exploring. I mean, the problem is you don't really get a lot of rewards for it. But look at Guardians, like it's the same problem.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, you don't.
And at least,
that's my problem with Guardians 2 was that like, man, those upgrades are not.
At least when I'm exploring in Metroid, I don't have Rocket or Gamora bitching at me about why I'm exploring. It's like it's a damn game.
But that's a joke, though. Like it's a joke of the fact that you're going.
Then it's a bad joke because they shouldn't incentivize the player. Like if you went exploring and you find nothing, that would have been funny. But it's like, no, I'm finding shit because my stupid magical visor tells me, hey, something's back here.
Yeah.
Like, why couldn't he just say, hey, I'm doing this for us, dipshits. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Like,
Randy,
hey, you got
anything?
Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't played Metroid, so I don't know yet.
Okay, but I mean, like, to make a stronger case for Guardians, or are we just gonna?
I mean, I would actually say for Guardians, the gameplay would actually be more of attack because like that was better than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially like once you actually like, the game didn't actually explain like, hey, or like say like, hey, this icon next to the shielded guy, use your gun against that, or use your element gun against that. Like it took me like 5 or 6 hours to figure out like, oh, this lightning bolt means I should shock him. That gets rid of his shield. Like.
Yeah, you do have that once you get the scan ability or whatever, the ability that like, well, it's the RPG version of scan that tells you.
No, it's not. You don't have to do that. Yeah, but like that like the first, I don't know, a few hours of the combat in that game were like not great to me because like once those shielded guys came out, it's like this is taking me a while to whittle this guy's shield down. Once I figured out,
what took me a while to figure out was the whole you had to combine their powers to like actually like kill some of these guys, because if you just do it with Peter, it's not going to necessarily work.
Well, no, I mean, I actually got that pretty quickly, but it's like, oh, this guy's a snowflake next to him. Use your cold power.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's like the game didn't tell me that, and it's like a helpful tutorial, just like, hey, when there's a fire thing, use fire.
I made the joke before we went on the air about security breach or whatever that Five Nights at Freddy's game is.
Yeah.
You don't want tutorials like that. I'm watching Markiplier play through that just because I'm curious what this bigger world Five Nights at Freddy's game is all about. And every time he gets a security card, it reminds him exactly what it does. And he has to go through a tutorial every time. So, like, yes, tutorials are nice, but sometimes it's like, hey, figure that shit out for yourself. And there are a lot of things in Marvel that took me forever to go, oh, yeah, that works. But, I mean, my sell, I guess, for Marvel as far as being ahead of Metroid. Again, I haven't played Metroid, and it could be one that I disagree with myself in a month or two once I finally am able to get around to playing that game. But you brought it up before. The story in Guardians is so much better than I was ever expecting in it. And they have points in that last act or two that are just well done.
The stuff with his daughter or whatever is just so well done.
And it's just a realization of dealing with the promise that this whole religious group is going in, and all of the different characters dealing with their own personal battles that the promise has showed them that they can do, and even Cosmo, the stupid dog. He drove me absolutely nuts, but him battling through that stuff was great, and going through Drax's head was an interesting section. But it was the
one with Drax was really good.
Trying to get your daughter out of the promise, and like the battle that she is going through, and it's just that like yes, is the voice acting fantastic in this game? Not always, but it was that scene where I went, all right, like we can
I
make fun of
really
the voice
loved.
acting at all, but that was a fantastic scene.
I love. For one, I thought Gamora's voice actress, I thought was really good, and when they get to her scene, I thought that was really well done as well.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably one of my favorite scenes in the entire game. And
Metroid has no story. Like,
well, it's Metroid, you know.
Right. But yeah, it's just between 7 and 8, so it's not a huge deal.
If you want to have Guardians above it, that'd be fine. But
okay.
I just think that Dread is a better playing game for sure.
Okay, so Dread at 8, Guardians at 7, Forza at 6, and then we have fun with our top 5.
Okay, so here we go. The top 5, if you didn't listen to this before, is right now Resident Evil Village, Death's Door, Tales of Arise, Returnal, and Takes Two. It Takes Two. Sorry.
Let the battles begin.
Where are we going here? I don't think that this is the year like last year where, because Resident Evil Village is on all of our lists and it would have been on Yen's list as well, I'm sure, that it automatically should get number 1.
I feel the opposite, or else we're going to be here forever.
I don't know. I just don't like. Okay, here's my thing with, like, I would put Tales above it, Mark.
I mean, so would I, but Randy didn't play it, and I think that's kind of a hard sell for a 100 or 50-hour JRPG.
Well, I'm not saying I'm not saying he should go spend his.
Sean's just over here saying we can outrank him, Mark. Just
no.
I don't like this battle.
No, it's just, okay.
Like, I think Resident Evil is like the democratic choice.
Okay, that's the democratic choice, but I'm just saying, like, is it the best choice necessarily? I mean, okay. My case for so like, but okay, out of the 5 that we know where ours is. Like, Randy's is It Takes Two, mine is Death's Door, which I don't think I'm gonna win on that. But of the other 3 that are there, which are games that you played, Mark.
Yeah.
One of them is exclusively you. Which is the one that you're like really going to the table? That's the one I'm most passionate about. Whatever.
I mean, for me, it would be Tales, but
okay.
Like I said, I think that's not the greatest argument, because I still think it should be Resident Evil.
Okay.
And like, my list would be number 1 Resident Evil, number 2 Tales, and number 3 It Takes Two.
Okay.
And 4 and 5, like, I'd say 4 Forza, and then 5 Death's Door.
Mark, how long have we known each other?
Oh, 4 or 5 years.
I think this is the first time we've agreed.
Yeah,
in that succinct way. Just, I have no problem with the Rise being added to It Takes Two, because I know I love it way more than you two do. I think
I liked it. I mean, I played with Jens. I didn't like the book at all. That was my biggest problem. And some of like the games, or like the stuff they're doing, kind of just bugged me.
Oh, some of the mini games were funny to me, but it helped that I won every single time. But
not mini games. I meant like the actual.
The actual gameplay elements.
Yeah.
Okay.
The good thing with It Takes Two and that it's, if you don't like the gameplay you're playing now, wait 5 minutes. It's
they change it constantly.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, I have no problem with it being below Tales of Arise, because I know you both absolutely loved it, and I'm with Mark. It was Resident Evil not only was on all of our lists, it was pretty high up on all of our lists, so I think it makes the most sense. And again, like Sean, you said, if Jens was able to play enough games where he felt more comfortable of being on a show like this, I think it would have been high up on his too.
I mean, I played Resident Evil 8 2.5 times, and I know he played it at least 2. I don't know about you guys or you, Randy, but it was fun to go through the first time, like, just to see everything. It was way more fun the second time when you have a shotgun with infinite ammo.
Well, yeah, of course.
That makes Heisenberg's Factory a lot more fun, actually.
Yeah, Resident Evil has always been a game series that has been built on.
Yeah,
Please
more
play
than
this
once.
game multiple times, and we will continue to unlock things for you to make it more enjoyable. Obviously, Resident Evil 2, like back in the day, the original Resident Evil 2, where you have to beat the game like 6 times to get
Tofu.
Hunk, and then a couple more times with Hunk to get Tofu, and like who would have known? Except it's just people that's what we did back then, was play the same game over and over. So yeah, I would go Village, Arise, It Takes Two, Death's Door, and Returnal as my 5 of these 5.
I mean, the only negative for me with Resident Evil is the unlock system, like the actual system to get cool guns.
With the points and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like the whole like, oh, you have to kill all the zombies in this one area, like the intro area,
right?
And you get 50 unlock points. It's like, no, this is terrible. Like, do this better, or just give me a flat currency system.
Just beat the damn game, and then we unlock something, and then beat the damn game again, and we unlock something else. Thoughts on these rankings there, Sean?
Like, as much as I really loved Resident Evil Village, and obviously I loved it as much to go back and play, Resident Evil 7. It's just like, man, I don't know. It's just because of both Tales and Death's Door, like, stuck with me more. When I think about, like, looking back at all the stuff I played this year, like, those are some of the 5 games, like, at the top of my head that come to me, and I go, man, that really was a lasting impact of things I played, and I really, really, really enjoyed. And it's just like, do I want to say that, oh man, just Resident Evil, just okay, it's number 1 and that's it, and
it depends on how long you want this podcast to be. And actually, you know what? I'll use your argument against you. Resident Evil Village made you go back and play Resident Evil 7. What did the other?
I'm not saying I didn't like the game. I'm just saying.
What did the other 2 make you go back and play?
Start playing Tales of Symphonia on the GameCube.
Well, I could have gone back and played Berseria or whatever, but it's like when Tales was out, there was other stuff, and I was like, oh god, I'm done with it. Thank you. I can go play something else. But it's like, it's also because Tales is longer. Tales is like 40 hours. It exhausts you after a while. That's why I stopped playing. I love Bravely Default too, but I stopped playing that game because I felt like it was going to take forever. I was like, oh my god, I want to go do something else. Like, so I don't know. I hate myself. I hate it. Like, but
well, let's just break it down a little bit. Are we all cool with Returnal being 5?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's new. Like, Horizon is good. I mean, I haven't played it. I can tell you it's good, but it's built on 4 other Horizon games, and outside of like the weather system, it's Forza Horizon 4.
Right. So yeah, so Returnal 5, and then Death's Door 4.
I don't want to see it. I like, man.
It's a fun game, but
yeah.
I think I know it made a more lasting impact on you, but it's one of those games that kind of fell off for me. Right.
That's fine.
Like, that was a game that I played like right before school got going, and as I had some time, and then when it came back to go back and play other things, I just couldn't get myself to go back and play Death's Door. So it's a very, very good game, but I think if we're looking at that indie titles that really stood the test, I mean, it has nothing on Hades from last year.
No, but I think Hades is a different kind of thing. I mean, Hades is meant for you to. There's stuff after you've rolled the credits. It's there for you to get. There's a lot of unlockables, whatever. Mm-hmm. But Hades is much more like Returnal or Resident Evil. It's meant for you to play it again and get more stuff as you go. Right? It's not meant for you. Death's Door, you can play it one time and you can pretty much get everything. And if you don't get the secret ending, you can go watch the secret ending on YouTube and get it. It's like.
I mean, by that metric, you can make that argument. It's like, okay, Death's Door doesn't equal Hades. Death's Door could equal Bastion.
Yeah, I mean, but Bastion was a great game as well, So
yeah, but I mean, like that Bastion was a game where you could play it twice, but there's no. I mean, aside from the other ending, there's no real reason to play it again.
Yeah. All right. So, what are we putting at? All right, I will give up this fight.
And then I'll put in It Takes Two at 3. I'm totally fine putting it. I know you guys both love Tales of Arise, so I will concede my game of the year at number 3.
See, I would say Tales at number 1, but you haven't played it, and there are some legacy issues in Tales, like the stupid skit system. Like, it's cool, and I think
it's done better in this game than any other game.
Yeah, it is better, but like one of the trophies in that game is like watch 300 skits, and it's like, are you crazy? Like, and you have to there are like certain triggers to like get to get to them, or it's like, no.
Well, yeah, I mean they do it at some point, but to be fair, that's a lot of dialogue and a lot of
I mean, it is a lot of good voice acting, or I mean, everything about like the voice work. I mean, if we're talking music, Tales of Arise would be number 1 because just the intro song alone is the best thing ever.
Intro song is freaking great. I would still contend that both Chicory and Death's Door and Guardians also deserve to be in that conversation, but yeah, Tales had some great music. I'd agree there. Resident Evil Village had good music too. But
we need to get Jens on for the top 2021 soundtrack game soundtrack of the year.
Hey, yeah, we should do that. I wonder if
Then be here for the next 9 hours.
Yeah, we'll be breaking down everything. Yeah, that's what sucks. But it was hard to tell Randy when we're doing a video game cram to be like, oh yeah, go play 40 hours of this game.
Jens. Oh yeah.
I was happy to get 3 or 4 hours into a couple games.
Yeah, fine. We'll just do it that. Let's just leave it there. Tales of Horizon 2 and
I think that's fair.
Resident Evil Village.
Just watch the Tales of Arise intro.
Actually, I loaded it up. You guys talk about the music. So when we were done, I actually have the intro opening animation pulled up, ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot of great things that Tales does fantastically well. It may not be like the best if we're gonna go through the entire series and say it's the best Tales game ever or whatever.
I can say that. I played more of them than you have. So,
but it's up there. I mean, certainly. And I just want to give Bandai Namco credit, for they made 2 really fantastic games this year. Like Scarlet Nexus, which didn't make our top 25, was really good as well. And then Tales of Rise. So, Bandai Namco hit it this year. And then they got Elden Ring next year. So they're already jumping off with that.
I was going to say, we've been very peaceful in this list because it was such a varied list. And I think we all came into it understanding that there was very few that really landed with all of us. Next year, the claws are going to come out, I think, because there's a lot of heavy hitters next year.
Yeah, if none of that stuff gets delayed, which would be impressive, if all of that stuff comes out, that's going to be ridiculous. How are we going to... It's going to be, 2017 all over again, where we had...
Next year, everyone's game of the year is just going to be Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, let's be honest.
Yeah, so, I mean, there it is. That's our game of the year is Resident Evil Village. I know some people are going to get mad that we did not argue enough or that we just went with the simple pick or whatever, but let's go through this list again, which probably has some distinct ones for people here. Cyber Shadow at number 25, Artful Escape 24, Eastward 23, Unpacking 22, Final Fantasy 7 Remake Intermission, the Yuffie DLC at number 21. Near Replicant. Not going to say the big long numbers
Come on.
after
Yeah.
that.
Okay, then it's got
No.
to be knocked down a list if you can't name the whole list.
That's fine with me. That wasn't my game. So you want to do that, go ahead. East 9 Monster of Nox. Shin Megami Tensei 5. Psychonauts 2 at number 17. Ratchet and Clank, A Rift Apart at 16. Persona 5 Strikers at 15. Life is Strange 2 Colors at 14. Halo Infinite 13. Inscription 12. Kana, Bridge of Spirits 11. Chicory, Colorful Tale at 10. Deathloop 9. Metroid Dread 8. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy at 7. Forza Horizon 6. Returnal 5. Death Store 4. It Takes Two 3. Tales of Horizon number 2. And Resident Evil Village is our game of the year. So there you go. That is our whole big list. What did you guys think? You can let all of us know on Twitter at WTMSean. Marc is at Humanity Plague. Randy is at Randy Isbelle. Pretty easy to find there. And if not, you can go. Hey, you know what? Spotify has a review system now. It's really easy. You go listen to 30 seconds of a show. You have the right to review it. And you can go. They have a right underneath the. When you go select the show, it'll have a little review thing there. You pick the amount of stars you want to give, and you hit submit, and there you go. And it helps us out a lot. Way better than the stupid iTunes system where you got to write your own thing, and then you actually got to have iTunes and all that other junk. Go use Spotify's review system to help, let us know what you think. And of course, you can always hit up the website, dirtynet.com. You can go on Last Word on Gaming. Go check out Randy's R&R Sports Report, which did y'all do one? Are y'all do one tonight or?
We did one yesterday. Yeah,
Yesterday.
we got through it.
So
and actual normal time this week, which is shocking, and then next week it's all up in the air. We have a high school tournament Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and who knows?
Yeah, and then they have their own YouTube, so go subscribe on YouTube or on the Facebook as well for them. And we have a Facebook page. You can go subscribe there. Go subscribe on our YouTube channel. Of course, you get all of the other stuff that WTO Network does as well. It's my soccer podcast, Soccer the Match. You get all the. They just did the Spider-Man No Way Home review. The Mark Radlich and company there. You can go check that out on WTO Network YouTube channel or on our podcast. We're available wherever there are podcasts as well. So go check us out. That's it for 2021. As far as like our standing for game of the year, I still have to review Dungeon Munchies and everything else that technically came out this year. But we'll be rolling on in 2022. Won't be very long. I think January 11th, you already get a somewhat big game coming out. So, yeah, get ready, folks. That 2022 is going to come hitting us hard and heavy with game after game. So, enjoy your holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever else you celebrate here. And we'll be back, I don't know, perhaps the Monday before we get to, will it be 2022 at that point? Is that how that works? If we do, no. Yeah, so if we're back on Monday, let's see, on the 27th, that'll be our last one of 2021. And then after that, it'll be 2022 for sure. So, and see everybody later.
Later.
Bye.